Guys, and welcome back to my channel. If you haven't, go ahead and check out my previous videos. Leave a comment, like, share, subscribe, follow me on all my social media pages. Now, if you're not new here, I think this is no surprise to you that the Serie A is my favorite league in the entire world. If you've been here long enough, you know that. Check out my previous Serie A video as well. So I'm here to talk about who I think will be in contention for the 2024-2025 Serie A. Now, since Juventus's reign had ended in the 2019 and 2020 season, we've seen Inter and AC Milan kind of taking turns on who is to be crowned Serie A winners. However, the exception of the 2022-2023 season, where Napoli was introduced as the new winner. It's their first title in 30 years. So the scoreboard looks a little bit like Inter 2-4, Milan and Napoli 1 each. And I'm breaking this video down in various different talking points. I have the clubs who are mid-table. They're not challenging for anything. They're just, you know, there. They make up the Serie A. They make the Serie A exciting. And then we have those who are challenging for top 4, those who have previously had rough season and are trying to come back up into the ranks, and also the title contenders, who at the end of the season will walk away with trophy. Let's talk about the mid-table teams, and I have Roma, Florentina and Lazio. Now, these are mid-table Serie A heritage. These teams take turns every season with who is going to finish 7th, 6th, 8th, vice versa, and they take turns every year in changing the order of the pecking order, basically. And these teams are rich in history, don't get me wrong. They've always had a incredible coaches, incredible players who has passed through, but the gap in terms of winning the Serie A is too huge. Money, accessibility, also their marketing. While they do have incredible and immense support, in terms of getting Europe's best to sign for them, it's a challenge, and you need the best in terms of challenge or charge. Moving on up into the table ranks, I have Atalanta. Now, Atalanta had a top 4 finish last season. They came 3rd, which was their best league finish since 2018-2019. I think we all remember Atalanta as that team the streets will never forget, basically. And last year we also saw them win the Europa League, which also boosts the morale for this season, where it is a case where they can replicate that season and go on it and build better. What makes Atalanta such an interesting team is because Gasperini has had time to gel this team and compact and make it his own, and they've come into fruition of what you'd want Atalanta to be over the years. Now, while it would have took them a lot of multiple seasons, money, and an eventual ownership takeover for it to work, because it didn't click in the earlier seasons in the late 2010s. It clicked as soon as there was changes being made and decisions and cuts being made. This season they can push for another top 4. I don't necessarily see them challenging for the title, because now they're in the Champions League. Then you have Serie A, you have all these other competitions that they're going to be participating in, so I do think that's going to be something for them. What I do love so far this season is they've scored the most goals, so that aspect of Atalanta will never change. They're always going to be an attacking team, and they're going to always be incredible to watch. What they did in the transfer market, they got Zaniolo, Rui Patricio, and they made various additions to the midfield and the defense. I think they're taking their season important, because you see sometimes where teams would have win a Europa League or a Champions League, and then they don't invest properly and they don't strategically plan for the upcoming season. Moving on to Juventus. Now, they are slowly trying to get back the dominance. If you watch Serie A, if you know anything about Italian football, then you know that Juventus is one of the giants. Most league title wins, they are just those guys, but they've not been themselves for a couple seasons. They went from 7th to 3rd, which is an incredible improvement. And why would they be 7th in the first place? So they went from a point deduction to the point deduction being overturned They then get removed from the European competitions such as Champions League, Europa League, all these things. Paul Pogba then gets suspended from football for alleged doping allegations. They then fire Allegri again to rehiring him. So Juventus was just basically chaos in and out for the past 3 seasons, and they seem to never put those scandals behind them and focus solely on the football. I do think they are owning into the football and focusing on what they want to do. And one of the things that I, was kind of frustrated with them is defensively, they weren't structured, they weren't compact, they easily collapsed in Europe and in Serie, and I think Thiago Motta has done a wonderful job of fixing that issue because they've only conceded 1 goal this season. And speaking of Thiago Motta, he's giving Juventus a different look. This is not the Juventus that we've known for decades. This is a new Juventus going in a new direction, and that's a good thing. Teams have to change and grow and move on. In terms of growing and move on, one thing I'd love to see and a change I'd love to see implemented is how the club is ran. The club is ran horribly. Like, the board and the infrastructure, they are ineffective. They have let down Juventus's fans. They've let down the heights that the club could reach in the modern game, and I think that's one of the reasons why they would have struggled so far. In my eyes, for this season, I only see them trying to stay afloat, trying to recoup all of the losses they would have encompassed last season and all of the scandals that they would have been involved in. I do see them trying to clean up their image a little bit more, and I do think they're gonna be not necessarily fighting for the title, but putting up good performances. And they also went into the transfer market and did some great shop around. Douglas Lewis comes in, Kepran Thuram. They're okay signings. What I do see as a hit for them is losing Chiesa. I don't think that was a good decision. And Rabiot doesn't change anything in the team. I'm not fancy of Rabiot and his playing style. Vlahovic, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. He's a interesting player, big, strong, number 9. Also scoring his goals, but he's not as consistent as he's like. So for now, the numbers are there, but does he continue this throughout Napoli? Now, last season when they finished in 10th was one of their worst finishes since being relegated in 1997-98 season. They have always been, and Napoli's always been top 4 or mid-table in the late 2010s. The lowest they've ever been in the modern era of football was when they were 7th in the 2019-2020 season. And if you look at 2016, 2018, 2019, you'd say they were challenging for the title and they'd always fall short, or you always hear that, oh, Napoli lost the league title, or Napoli was leading for like 20 games and then coming into the last 10 or so games they would have fallen off. The big change came in 2022, and you saw where the club was coming out of, surviving a disaster to now owning the right to be crowned top of Serie, and that was just an incredible win. They were dominant from day one to the end, and that was all credit to Spalletti. And you think, after that incredible win, Napoli can go on and they can create bigger moments and they can do greater things and they can just make history? No. So they lose their head coach, disagreements with the board, and he decides he's not renewing his contract and he leaves this league. And that to me was the beginning of the downfall. I talked about it, I think, a year ago or so, or some time ago. I spoke about how him leaving would be the downfall, and they've tried with 3 different coaches in that time in trying to replicate what Spalletti has done, and none of them has come close. But here, lo and behold, in the 2024-2025, get it right in hiring a serial winner in Antonio Conte. So I spoke about the board falling out with Spalletti. The board then goes ahead, and there was problems with Osimhen, and I think this was phase 2 of their downfall in letting him go on alone. And I know some relationships are hard to come back from, some problems are just hard to solve, and I think that was their answer to it, which is fine. Conte, he's a force to be reckoned with. One game a week, Conte is not to be played with, because we've seen it time and time again that he can deliver under pressure in comfortable moments. The only case we have against Conte is at Tottenham, and I don't think anybody can say Tottenham. As it stands now, they are top of the table. Performances are great. Into the new season, they've also made some changes, and I think these changes work for them, because in McTominay, I think he's a perfect fit for Serie. He is the Serie's dream midfielder. Conte's gonna do magic with him. We also have Lukaku coming in. He has a great relationship with Antonio Conte as well. They get a lot done when they work together. And so Billy Gilmore is also added to the team. I love Billy so much. Not to mention the players who are already there: Di Lorenzo, Spinazzola, and Guisa, who's just one of my favorite players currently. Kivichak, let me not butcher his name, Raspadori. They have a nice team, and when you give Conte a good team and hardworking players, you create magic. In terms of the title, I wouldn't put it past him to win it, but I also don't have high hopes. I'm not counting them out. I just don't see them winning. Moving on to AC Milan. Now, last season they finished second. That was 19 points off the title. I wouldn't say they were in a title race, to be honest, because their performances were pretty shambolic for most of the season. But legend has it, it's their time to win the Serie A. Is that so? Let's get it off. The ending of last season, we kind of saw they were having troubles, whether that was injuries, whether that was breaking down teams, whether that was being compact and keeping a lead, or proving that they can stand the test of time. And now coming into this season, it's a different AC Milan. I would say that the approach has changed. The drive and passion has also changed. Winning the Milan Derby, very big statement to make, and I think that's something that's good to go forward for the rest of the season. 3 seasons since their last win, and I don't think they've been convincing enough to say, hey, they are contenders and they can win. They have very far way to go. The transfers, I do think this is where AC Milan are gonna go a little bit above. We have Morata, who's he's a good team player. He'll get in the areas that you need him to get. He'll do the things that you need him to do, and that's just incredible. Emerson Royal, not my favorite player for this AC Milan team, so there Tammy Abraham joins as well. Not to mention he's gonna be a part of the addition of Pulisic, who's just on fire. It's his moment, it's his team, I would say. Rafael Leao. Say what you want about this young man and be convinced or not, but he's him. He's him. Leao is good. Leao is good. Now here's where AC Milan will probably lose it, if injuries runs through this team like a tomb raider, like it did last season. That's one of the ways I do see them losing the title. Also, the defensive structure doesn't change, and that's also a problem for them. And AC Milan has had a pretty interesting run, because you would remember early 2000s, early 90s, late 90s, they were on top, they were making the rounds in Serie A. But then in the late 2010s, we saw some of their worst league finishes. They have the second number of Serie A titles, so I don't think that matters at the end of the day. But with a team with such rich history and such a important role in Serie A, I think now is the time for them to get it serious. And I think what really changed for them is the appointment of Stefano Pioli, who now has left and gone to Saudi Arabia. I think he came in and just revitalized, but it was just not enough. And that sometimes you do as best as you can. And so I don't think it's time for a new era for AC Milan. Moving on to Inter. Now, Inter is a team to beat. Right off the bat, they are the team to beat. It's their league title to lose. They are the team you want to take points off of because they can do the inevitable of going back to back. As I've stated in the start of the video, they won 2 of the last 4 to show you that they have been very consistent in performances, in beating the big teams, in showing up when it matters the most. It's not always been perfect, might I add, because Inter has had moments where they failed to capitalize on it. They're wonderfully coached also by Inzaghi, who has also made the team his own. It's clear when you see Inter Milan line up to play, you know what you're getting from them. He's won 6 trophies with them. That's just an incredible achievement for any coach at any club in the time he's been there. Something I love about Inter as well, and this is just, at this point, it's just the thing with Italian teams, they have rich history. They have been coached by some of the elites, the best. Some failed, some succeeded. Early 2000s were their best seasons in terms of performances and trophies. And in the modern era, they weren't always this good as we know them now. And they finally shaped up to be the powerhouse that they currently are. And that's just incredible to watch a team go from struggling to back on top, because you need these teams to be good at the end of the day. They have a seasoned group of players coming in with them this season. I think they can go back to back. As I said, the players have gelled really well together. This the formation that they're currently using with the 2 strikers and the overlapping fullback, so good. They have the 2nd highest goals scored, and I don't see them stopping because the team is just good. And sometimes when you see persons talking about, even when Stunpeg, when she talked about being the best center back in Europe, and persons were like, what are you talking about? It shows you people don't watch this league, because if you'd watch the league, you know where people are coming from with some of the praises for these players. But yeah, as I said, I do think Inter Milan is going back to back. AC Milan, not so sure if they are gonna be contending for the title. Please keep an eye out for Napoli, because with Antonio Conte at the wheel, they might just shock everybody and win the whole thing. So yeah, that's my prediction for the Serie 2024-2025 season. Drop some comments down below. Keep up with me on social media. Let me know what you guys think, if you agree, disagree, and I'll see you in the next one.